Welcome to the Global Impacts of Fashion Merchandise. My name's Ben Straneri, and along with Ina Konopov, we will be taking you for the next 16 weeks as we go through this course related to sustainability and the environment of the fashion industry. Now, before we start the official lectures, this is just a brief introduction to the course, which helps you sort of get your head around our expectations of the course and to ensure that you fully understand what's required of you. So we'll start with the assessments. And as you can see in the red there, the big assessment that's worth almost half the marks is a test essay right at the end of the semester. So it's an individual assessment. We'll give you plenty of preparation to do it, but if you're not strong with essays or you haven't had much experience with structuring an essay, well, perhaps that's where you need to focus on and seek our assistance as you're doing it. In the yellow, we've got a weekly quiz worth 25%, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Terminology, which is 5%. And then finally, the academic journal summary worth 25%. And this is the only group assessment where you work in groups of 2 to complete that assessment. So we've got a bit of a balance of individual work in the red, group work in the purple here, the weekly quiz, which can be done individually or in a group. We'll do it in the class for the first few weeks. So, but the key one to remember is that the major test is an individual assessment. So make sure you're prepared for it. And usually when students fail, it's either a lack of preparation of this one coupled with usually not doing the quiz and terminology, not being consistent in doing it, because they might do it for the first few weeks and then sort of forget about it and can't be bothered, and that's where they get in trouble. So hopefully, if you're consistent, you shouldn't have any problems. Okay, delivery structure. We're going to have a weekly lecture, which is online, so you can watch it. I'll release it every Monday or Sunday night. You can watch that online. And that sets the context for the week. So I'll be talking about the particular problem or the issue relating to that aspect of the fashion industry, and that helps sort of expand, or we'll use that to expand on the problems or the possible solutions that the fashion industry could take. The key point with the lectures, as you're watching them, and hopefully not watching Netflix at the same time, seek to understand the slide that's in front of you. So I'll present a slide to you, I'll talk to that slide, and all you should be doing is, if you understand everything I say on that slide, you just tick it off and say, yeah, I've got it. If you don't understand it, just circle it, highlight it, make a note of it. And in the tutorials, ask Ina or myself, what did Ben mean with regards to this point or this slide? I didn't quite understand. So it's really important, and part of your learning as well, is to be able to, one, listen to information that's relayed to you, but secondly, for you to actually then turn around to us and say, well, explain that in more detail or explain it in another perspective. And that's Ina and I are happy to do that for you. Okay, so you'll do the lecture and then we'll run to the tutorial, and the tutorial will be online, will be in Collaborate Ultra. There's a Monday tut and a Thursday tutorial. I've got the Monday one and Ina's got Thursday. I can't remember if I've got group A or B. I think I might have B. And the structure is more or less the same. We'll start off with a quiz. And the quiz is that, where are we? The yellow bit here. Weekly quiz, 25%. And there's 12 questions. Sometimes there's 10 questions each week, multiple choice questions. We'll look at the question, we'll look at the possible answers, and we'll talk about it. So for the first few weeks, we'll do it together. And then after that, we'll let you sort of do it at your own pace, if you like. So as I said, if you're consistent with that, it's a relatively easy way to pick up 25%. But remember, I lock it after 1 week. So if you don't do it in that week, you lose the right to get those points. We don't open it up again. Secondly is a terminology with 5%, and again, we'll give you 4 or 5 terms and ask you to just do a Google search and write down what they mean. This is useful for the final test essay. Again, I'll go back, the 45%, the red one, because you'll end up with a glossary of terms and definitions that you can put into the test essay. And indeed, your marks will go up if you use some of those terms that we've given you, because obviously we can see that you've understood them if you put it in the right place. And the final part of the tutorial is a problem. Every week, but only starting from week 5, we're going to present a problem to you, and we're going to discuss possible solutions. And what that problem and group work to research and present findings is preparation. Once again, I'll go back for the 45% test essay. So we'll be practicing this test essay for 8 weeks. Lots of practice. So if you engage in that process, you shouldn't have any problems when it comes to the test essay. And as I said before, it's usually when students stop engaging is where they find themselves in a bit of trouble. It's not a subject that you can sort of pass at the last moment very easily. Excuse me. Okay, so when it comes to the weekly quiz, the 25%, basically it's formative, which means it's sort of facts. It's introducing you to just facts. So it broadens your awareness of some of the issues that are out there and just helps you remember some of those things. It's good to not only do the questions, but make a copy of the questions and save them somewhere, because questions and answers. So once you submit, it'll show you the answers, the ones you've got right or wrong. If you can copy and paste them somewhere else, they might be handy to you, because otherwise, if you don't, then you won't have access to them after that. And once again, if there's questions there you don't quite understand or you're particularly interested in and perhaps want to pursue it further, then I'd focus on that. Terminology, as I said before, 5%. Here's an example of the week 1. I think it's week 1 or week 2. Developing world, developed world, and you just need to write a few words. It's not particularly difficult, but again, it's just to help you get in that discipline of researching, taking notes, and organizing them. So once again, make a copy and paste that into your own file, because once you submit it, you lose access to it. Thirdly is the academic journal summary with 25%. And this is formative, where we get you to read a piece and ask you to review that piece, or summarize that piece, I should say, sorry. So pretty much we're looking at your reading skills and writing skills. And the grade you get back will give you an indication on where you sit in preparation for the final test essay, and what you do or don't need to prepare for that final test. And so we'll issue it in week 6. You'll have 2 weeks to do it, submit by week 8. Then that's just before our semester break. And then finally, we have got 1, 2, 3, that should be 4. Just realized that. The final test assessment with 45%. So obviously, well, not obviously, we don't know if we'll be back on campus or not this semester. So if it was on campus, we do it closed book in the class. If it's remotely, what we did last semester is we gave you 8 possible questions beforehand, and you had to we would ask you to prepare 8 possible answers, and then on the test day you would simply do one of those, the one that we send you or ask you to do. But I'll talk about that in more detail later on. As I said, this is the big one, so it's important to sort of get your head around what's expected of you of this one at the start, to do it now, because then as you progress through each week, you can then sort of formulate your own strategy for passing this one. We will give you a pass for this assessment if you just display to us that you understand the background knowledge. So basically, what I present to you in the lecture, if you can put that into the essay, you'll pass this one. You'll get your 50%. That's why I'm saying the the lectures and the slides are important. And if you don't understand something, it's important for you to tell us that you don't understand it. We will give you 30% application of knowledge, and this is the credit distinction part, if you provide examples from the industry. So this is where you take the theory that I give you in the slides and you do your own research to see what Country Road's doing, or Myer, or Target, or Dolce Gabbana, and you can associate the two, bring them together. Then we're looking at a credit or a distinction. So that's your own work outside of what you're doing for this course or what I'm delivering. And then finally, the 20% originality of concept, that comes from how creative you are in your solution. So 3 levels. The first level is, can you basically repeat what I've delivered in the lectures and put it in a written form? Secondly, can you provide examples that's currently occurring in the industry? And thirdly, can you come up with your own solution? And it might be, I don't know, an organic fabric or a waterless dye, something like that. And we'll talk about that later on in there. So again, I just thought I'd sort of give you that assessment now. I know it's early, but the more you know at the start about the assessments, the better you can prepare for those assessments. Okay, final thing I want to mention is Sir Francis Bacon, who you've probably never heard of. He was around in the 1600s, and he is accredited with being the father of scientific inquiry, or if you like, universities. This was the guy that said, let's interpret the world using science. Let's observe what we see, discuss it with other people, and come to a consensus to say, yes, you know, when there's clouds in the sky, it means it might rain. Uh, when the sun rises, it means it's going to be a nice day. I mean, this is using science, and science is basically using reason to come to a decision. In the 1780s, we had Thomas Paine, who was one of the founders or influential in founding the United States as a country in its own right. And through his publication, The Age of Reason, he also reinforced this by saying, if you come to a decision, and I'm talking about this in the context of originality of solution and concept down here, how you're going to solve the problem. And what Thomas Paine was saying is, once you've identified a problem, use reason and logic to solve that problem. And why I say this is because in 2020, what we're currently living in a world of Twitter, Facebook, Weibo, the whole range of social media platforms that are not based on reason. They're based on opinion, on fear, and a whole range of motivations. And subsequently, a lot of people are misinformed, or perhaps are moving away from this idea of understanding the world through reason and logic. And you've enrolled in a university. Um, that's our job, is to train you in the discipline of being able to sort the nonsense from the logical approach to things. So, you know, nothing more personifies today than Donald Trump, who perhaps is accused of not using reason or logic when he makes decisions or when he says something. It's based on fear, it's based on emotions. Uh, and our argument in a university is that doesn't make for a safe and progressive society. So, what we want to see in your answers is that when you suggest something, it's based on logic, it's based on wide reading, if you like, and it's based on thinking. So that when you go out into industry, when you do get a job and you're sitting at a table and the manager's saying, how do we solve this problem? You're the one that stands out because you've applied logic, you've got good background information to do so. So this subject asks you to think. It's not about reciting facts and figures. It's not about just sort of copying and pasting. It's simply asking you to be independent and creative in your own thinking. And the more you think, the higher your grade is. Okay, I hope that gives you a bit of a overview of the course. And once again, welcome to the Global Impacts of Fashion Merchandising. If you now go on to the week one lecture, we'll start the course. Thank you.